I feel privileged to have been fortunate enough to have a proper arcade experience when I was younger. Nowadays, arcades on the whole have been relegated to the corners of bowling alleys and near beaches in the UK, and very rarely have any quality machines available. Time Crisis is always good to shove a bit of money in when you see it. There has been a bit of an uprising of arcades popping up, with arcade club and arcade bars found in most cities nowadays. Gaming retrospectively has had quite the resurgence. Almost feels like the modern 30 to 40 year old midlife crisis. One of the games I remember most during the time spent at my nearest arcade was Final Fight. Before the first Streets of Rage was even released on the Mega Drive, this thing absolutely blew me away. I spent a lot of change with this machine: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons and WWF WrestleFest, while my brother was playing the Vector-style original Star Wars machine. The game began life as a sequel to the original 1987 Street Fighter machine, and I think it's one of the reasons why, once Street Fighter series got to Street Fighter Alpha, we would discover that both franchises share the same universe, with characters from Final Fight appearing in the character select screen. Final Fight was released in 1989 by Capcom in the arcade, and although it wasn't the first side-scrolling beat-em-up, I would say it surpassed previous machines graphically, conceptually and technically, that I would almost consider it as a first of its kind. The story is simple, set in the fictional Metro City, with the previous high crime rates that have been somewhat resolved since the election of former pro wrestler Mike Hagar. One gang is still at large, the Mad Gears, with the crooked businessman Belga at the helm. After Hagar refused to crack to their bribes, the gang kidnapped his daughter Jessica and create new unrest in the city. Hagar recruits Jessica's boyfriend Cody and Cody's close friend Guy to take down Mad Gears and rescue Jessica. Gameplay is simple fun: an 8-way arcade stick plus 2 buttons, attack and jump. Continuous attack presses initiates a combo. Both buttons together initiates a crowd clearing move if you get overwhelmed to the detriment of your health. Also, there is a throw. If you are close enough, your player will grab automatically and then you press attack to throw. Hagar has one extra throw, a pile driver, which is grab, jump, then attack. One useful manoeuvre that I only discovered recently is to initiate the combo, but on the third attack, pull the stick in the opposite direction of the playable character in order to initiate a throw. Also, the jumping attack is the most reliable form of attack across most of the game. There are 6 levels in different locations around Metroid City with 2 bonus rounds. The slums, with the boss being Damned. The Parkway/Subway, with the boss being Sodom. The West Side, with the boss being Eddie E. The Industrial Area, with the boss being Rolento. The Bay Area, with the boss being Abigail. And Uptown, with the boss being Belga. Bonus rounds featuring car destruction, which originated in this game, would also be included as a bonus round in Street Fighter 2, and shattering of sheets of ice. Notable home releases include a SNES release, which although was a rather big deal when it was released, it is on the whole quite a disappointing experience in comparison to the arcade. With across-the-board censorship, less on-screen enemies, and a baffling choice that there is no 2-player mode. One of the key components to any good brawler-style game. This is something Sega would take advantage of with the release of Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. Mega CD is probably the best port of the arcade version, but frankly I've had no experience with this release. The plus side is a killer CD quality soundtrack, with the only downside being that there are fewer enemies on screen at the time compared to the arcade. I do own Final Fight 1 by Ubisoft on the Game Boy Advance, which is less of a faithful port of the arcade original than a reimagining of the SNES original, with sprites more closely resembling their Street Fighter Alpha versions. Little conversion cutscenes before boss fights, and most importantly the reinstatement of 2-player. Other less interesting releases include some pretty awful microcomputer conversions by US Gold, as well as Capcom arcade compilations on most consoles from the PS2 onwards. I never got excited about the SNES only sequels Final Fight 2 and 3. I'm sure there's some enjoyment to be had from them, but once Streets of Rage 2 was released on the trusty old Mega Drive, then except for the arcade original, it was a distant memory. From a nostalgia perspective, I would have to put Streets of Rage 2 as my favourite brawler, with Final Fight as a close second. Its initial impact on me can't be understated. If you've somehow missed out on this great arcade title, then defo fire it up on your Raspberry Pi or stick some coins in if you see it out in the wild. You won't regret it. I hope you enjoy my content and feel free to like, share and subscribe and get your geek on with Jig Retro.